Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again here at Thank You for Being a Friend. My guest today is the bad boy. Please welcome Joey Janela.
Oh, hey, Justin.
Joey, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Looks like you're doing pretty good. The weather there looks a lot nicer than the weather here.
It's in Arizona, it usually gives us about a week of spring, and then we jump right into summer, and it's like 100 degrees. This year, we got like 3 weeks of spring, and summer's going to start tomorrow. It'll be like 100 out here. Right now, it is 78 and sunny. What's it
I
by you?
wish. I don't know. It's probably in the 60s right now. But there's like
Gotcha. Well,
like a mini tornado coming through. So,
oh no. Well,
not too good.
hopefully it won't be a tornado, and then it will pass, and you will have spring-like temperatures out there.
There's a tornado.
What have you been
and it
up to
happened
for?
during this. I said there's a tornado and it
There
happened
is a
during this
tornado?
broadcast. No. There is tornado warnings around, but if there was a tornado, it would make good content for the broadcast.
I'm sorry, there's like a delay. I'm wearing the AirPods today. There's a bit of a delay, so that sounds weird. It would make good content, but it would be horrible, and hopefully that doesn't happen. I'd rather have this. I think you are good content in anything you do. What have you been up to in the past, I don't know, 5-6 weeks?
Nothing really, actually. Just I actually don't mind this. I'm kind of enjoying this, to be honest.
How are you keeping yourself busy?
I have a personal trainer space that I've been going to that a family friend owns. So that's private, so I can go work out there. So I've been working out a lot harder and just been doing some content for myself, and Instagram lives have been keeping me busy, and those been getting traction. And besides that, it's basically paid rehab for me because I'm quite a social drinker. So I drink a lot when I'm out. I don't like to drink in my house. So I think I've gotten drunk once in the last month and a half, which is a record for the last 11 years. So maybe longer.
Wow. So are you feeling any different?
Feeling great, actually.
Good.
Still going to sleep at 7 a.m, but that's just my insomnia.
Is that because you have so much to do late at night, or you can't sleep?
I just can't sleep. I just hang out at night. I'm like a vampire.
Okay. Whatever works for you. So let's talk. We've never actually sat down. Like we always talk at TV, but we've never actually like sat down. I've never heard your story. I think the first time we ever met was All In.
I believe
safe
so.
To say?
Yeah, I think that's the case.
I hadn't met you, and I would just always see your name on Twitter. Everybody would be retweeting something about Joey Janela this, Joey Janela that. And I didn't know, like, who is this Joey Janela? And I started seeing the content you were posting, and I thought, this guy's really entertaining. And then when I saw that you were going to be an All In, I thought, oh, cool, I'll get to meet Joey Janela. And that's where we met. And you had a hell of a match. And then fast forward to post All In, and you were all out with AEW.
Yes.
So how did it all begin? What brought you into wrestling? What made you become a fan? And how old were you?
When I was young, obviously guys like Hulk Hogan drew me in, and that's a lot of people my age. I'm 30 years old, so around when I first started getting into wrestling was kind of the end of Hulkamania in the WWF, and then I kind of get into WCW that way, and then I think I fell out for a couple years, and then I got back in. When some of the cruiserweights started coming around, I started getting into that and the wrestling aspect of wrestling. And of course, the Attitude Era and Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's what really got me engaged in professional wrestling, and it hasn't changed since then. So I think I came around at the perfect time to be a wrestling fan.
what was the point where you said, hey, I love watching this stuff, and you went to, oh, I want to do this. I want to be a wrestler. When did that happen?
1998, I'd say. Watching, watching Stone Cold and stuff, watching the wildness and craziness unravel on Monday nights on there in Nitro. So yeah, that's like in '98. I kept on saying, "Yeah, I'm going to be a wrestler." I didn't think it was going to happen, but in my teens, I started backyard wrestling, and when social networking came out with MySpace and whatnot, I started contacting other backyard wrestling companies, basically in my vicinity. Whoever can get us there with the license can drive us there, and started mingling in other backyard wrestling promotions. So basically, I was doing what I did on the independents, but at 15 as a backyard wrestler, just contacting people and just wrestling around in different towns and stuff. And that's how I met the guys who brought me into the wrestling business, because they were trained and they were still doing backyard wrestling. So that's how I got into business.
So you started with backyard wrestling and then eventually kind of worked your way into the indies and working with guys who were trained and maybe picking up some skills that you didn't have from backyard that you didn't know about, that you said, hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm just imitating what I see on TV. And then these guys said, oh, wait, if you do this and do this. And did they kind of show you the ropes and help you grow a little bit?
Yeah, there was another guy. He was a backyard wrestler as well. There was about 5 of us who kind of got into business, and a couple faded away. There was a guy, Corey Havoc. He was a Jersey indie guy, but he was a backyard wrestler with me, and we broke in together basically. And so we were on the same voyage together. But it wasn't really like, it would be like I found my ins, just, basically setting up wrestling rings. And then before the show, got to roll around a little bit, learn how to bump, hit the ropes, lock up, maybe a wrist lock. And then before I know it, I weaseled my way onto indie cards. And that was within 5 months, because the first time I stepped in a ring was March of 2006. And I debuted in August 2006.
How did you make yourself stand out when you're on these indie shows?
Back then, I wasn't really standing out. Maybe I thought I was, but I was doing a lot of crazy stuff. Back then I wasn't getting booked every week. It was like a once in a month deal. So there wasn't really no standing out. It was just getting my foot in the door and saying to people that I'm a professional wrestler. At that point, I kind of just stepping in a ring, I kind of lived my dream already. So.
And then from there, you started running your own shows?
No. There's a couple times that between like a 4-year period when I was in my late teens to 20 years old that I kind of quit a few times. I guess it was just because, I wanted to, instead of doing wrestling, I wanted to go to parties and hang out with girls and stuff. So there's a couple times I quit, but then I always came back, and I just progressively, match by match, I think I got better and better and better. And even for that, I've been showing a lot. I have a Twitch feed now. I've been showing a lot of my old stuff on there once in a while. And it's I kind of look at it and I'm like, it's actually not too bad. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be watching it back. But yeah, kind of just, match by match learned on the road. It's kind of the old school way, to be honest. I kind of trained the old school way.
That's great. So as you keep growing and getting better, you're working, I'm assuming you start working on bigger shows than you had been working on, or are you working in front of bigger crowds? Walk us through that.
Yeah. So I started really hitting schools, wrestling schools, and training at different places in my late teens. found some local place in Jersey that was about 30 minutes away that we would just go and fuck around the ring and stuff and roll around. And we trained there probably like 4 days a week. And there wasn't really no rhyme or reason there, but for ring time, it was great. I would roll around with the guy, Corey Havoc, who I broke in with. And for that time, it was great. And then from there, I made it in, started training at Combat Zone Wrestling in 2009. I trained there for probably about 5 months. And in between that, I was also training with a guy named Teddy Fine from Philadelphia at a Pro Wrestling Unplugged school. And I was training there probably 3 days a week for probably about 6 months. And just from there, making connections. And I started doing, like the CCW student shows and, just kind of found my way there. And after that, I started doing a lot of camps and seminars, and I've done over 50 camps and seminars throughout my wrestling career. And it's a list that's basically a who's who of professional wrestling. I don't know if you could find a better camp seminar resume in wrestling. I've trained with them all. And then
what stands out? Who are some of the guys that you had trained with that you say, wow, this guy really made an impact and taught me a lot?
Trying to think. I can't remember like full seminars and camps, but I always took something from each seminar camp that I still use today. I can't tell you who really like inspire me, but I've done them with the list goes on. Dustin Rhodes, AJ Styles, Ultimo Dragon, Great Muda, Dean Malenko, Jerry Lynn, Matt Hardy, Tom Pritchard many times, Al Snow many times, Lance Storm, Nigel McGuinness. There was also like those super camps where you would have 6 guys like Lance Storm, Nigel McGuinness, Gerald Briscoe, whatnot, there for like 3 days, and you would just train with them. I did Gerald Briscoe quite 4 times. He always was, he always was good help. The list goes on. I have over 50, I think so.
That's a hell of a mix. It's a lot of great talent that you train with. So the thing that stands out when I think about you is just hearing about all these shows that you were running and the guys that you were bringing in. It was just such an array of talent. And I'd like to know how you started running your own shows and what was your thinking when you were running these, if you were trying to make your shows different from everybody else, because they definitely were. What went into that? How did that start?
It was just like a spur of the moment thing. I think Gabe and Sal, they were running that More Than Mania deal every year, and kind of through the grapevine, we heard there was a slot open at midnight on Thursday, and so the promoter of Game Changer Wrestling, Brett Lauderdale, and at the time Danny DeMonto, he was also half promoter with Brett Lauderdale. They hit me up and they asked if I'd be interested in doing a show that was basically a Joey Janela party at midnight on Thursday. And we didn't know how big it was going to be. We didn't even know if it was going to work. I was just coming off that viral bump of me getting plunged to my death by Zandig. And they were just I had a lot of buzz around my name, that and my matches with Leo Rush and stuff. So around my area, especially, I was getting a tremendous amount of buzz. And then I started, social media. I was grasping very fairly. So they came up with this idea to do this Joey Janela party at midnight, and a light bulb went off, and I was like, this is my opportunity. Like, I'm not going to, I don't know when I'm going to find another opportunity to book my own shows or promote my own shows. So this is it. So I got to capitalize right now. I said, do we have the contact? Can we get the contact for Ken Shamrock? I think that was the first thing I said.
That was your first one? He was your first draft pick?
Yeah, I was like, can we get the contact for Ken Shamrock, please? I need to have him wrestle Matt Riddle in the main event. So that was it. And that thought process right there was kind of what, curved the way my shows were and how we went about booking things.
And you would run a show, you would use somebody who hadn't been around or wrestling in a while. And then once you use them, then they were just kind of back in wrestling, right? That happened with quite a few people.
Yeah. It just happened. It was pretty wild. I'm trying to think. On the first show, I don't think there was really a situation like that we had someone like break out, but we had like the Marty Jannetty match. Marty wrestling.
I think it happened more as you built up your reputation and you built these shows up and people were like, oh, cool, it's a Joey Janela show. And on those shows, when you had those crowds who were hungry, that's where that happened more, correct?
Yeah, the first show was just so absolutely off the wall wild, like, and different from everything else that Mania weekend. That was in a time on the independents where it was very grapple based and very technical wrestling and some hard hitting stuff combined with some of the British style of the 80s. That was kind of the style at that time. And then I kind of just threw this black hole into the independent wrestling scene with having Dan Severn wrestle Matt Riddle or me wrestle Marty Jannetty, and then having Virgil come in and do a run and just, it was just, people were, the next day, it was like, it was crazy because I've never felt a response like that, especially on the year before Mania weekend. I didn't have enough money to eat on the way home from driving home from Texas. This Mania weekend in Orlando, not only had more money, but I was walking down the street, walking out of restaurants, and people were screaming, "Spring break!" And I was like, oh, shit. And then they started chanting, "Hardys, Hardys," and realized the Hardy Boys were right next to me. So it's just walking out of a restaurant. But it was just it was crazy. It was a wild time. I never experienced something like that. And, we're like, we got to go big next year. And we didn't think we'd top first year, but then we certainly topped the first year. Like, can we get Great Sasuke? And then with PCO, seeing PCO on an indie show kill himself, I booked him on the spot. I texted my partners and I said, can we book this guy? And we all know what happened to him. That was like kind of like the first like talent we booked that was like the resurgence or a breakout. And I felt so happy for him. It's just such a good guy who got the shit out of the stick because he always walked to the beat of his own drum. He never played politics. He didn't kiss ass. That's the reason he didn't make it to the top of the industry in the 90s. And it felt so good to give him that platform and to see what happened with him, and from him going from my show and putting on that performance to going to wrestling in Madison Square Garden exactly 1 year later, a place where he wrestled. And he never thought he'd be there again in 1994 at WrestleMania 10. He was there again, another sold-out MSG show. That made me feel so good. And it's not like we're like we can point at a guy and say, this guy's going to blow up if we put him in this spot, or if this guy does this, then he's set. That's what we did with Marco Stunt. Marco Stunt, I was supposed to have one of our wrestlers, KTB, wrestle somebody else, but that match fell through. And I said, how about we have this Marco Stunt pretend he's a child in the crowd? And I said, how about we feed him this line that the wrestler asks him, KTB asks Marco, "How old are you?" And then he goes, "I'm old enough to." And I knew from that moment when that crowd reacted that he was set and he would go places. And that's all it took.
And he did. Jeez, you really gave guys that platform, and look what it did for PCO. Look what it did for Marco, and look what it's
Jungle
done for you. Yeah,
Jungle Boy as well. Jungle Boy didn't even have a Twitter. I had to when we booked Jungle Boy. I was trying to find his social media and I couldn't find it. So I said, "Listen, man, I think you're gonna blow up after this match. I would get a Twitter right now." And within 10 minutes, Jungle Boy had a Twitter. So that's an absolute true story. He didn't have any social media besides, I think, Facebook, or I had his phone number or something.
that's great. You've helped a lot of guys out. You're a very creative guy. Obviously, a very caring guy to do that, and it's also helped you. Let's talk about, like we mentioned earlier, All In. How did that come into a thing for you?
Yeah, I guess just from my shows and the buzz I'm generating online, and then I started doing vignettes online with Giancarlo, who's now in a different place now where he can't film my stuff anymore, unfortunately. But we started doing these vignettes online and post them on Twitter and YouTube and stuff, and they were getting a lot of traction because no one was doing this cinematic approach to promos and vignettes and hype videos, and those took off, and now there's a lot of those out there now it's a lot of that. So I think Giancarlo is the guy who set the bar when it came to that stuff, but he was like basically only working with me and Max MJF and David Starr and a couple others. So he was making these great videos, and my videos always get a lot of buzz, and Matt Jackson would hit me up and say, "Oh, I just saw your video, man. That was really awesome, man. That was really sick." And I said, "Thank you, man." And we just kept in contact, and we would just message each other here and there if we saw something on social media that was funny or whatnot that related to something. And eventually I got my second show done with and whatnot, and I said, let me give this a shot. Let me try to hit them up and see if I can get a spot on the show. So I hit them up. I said, "Where can I send my VHS tape for the All In show?" And then within an hour, I was booked for the show. So awesome. I was like, "Oh, okay," and it's pretty wild. And then we all know what happened.
Was that your biggest show, All In?
Yeah, that was the biggest crowd. Yeah. It was.
And what was that like for you to be on that stage that night, and knowing the world was watching, because the wrestling world was watching that show. Everybody was watching that show.
It was crazy. I right before I went out through the curtain, I started crying, and then Penelope Ford started crying, and then I slapped myself and I told her to shut up. So let's go. And then we went out. And we did our thing, and man, that was unlike anything else on that show. That was a car crash for the ages. So it's just
that was a spectacle. You and
it was
Hangman
a
Adam
spectacle.
Page.
It was a Joey Janela spectacle on a grand scale in front of a crowd. The thing is, I've never done extra work. The only way I've been in an arena that large in front of a crowd like that is if I was in the crowd. Never did I perform in front of a crowd that big at that time. Nothing even close to that. So you know the show's coming up. You're looking forward to it. You know it's going to be huge. You're there. It's amazing. You have that huge moment, everything that happened in that match. And then the show ends. What were your thoughts like? Oh, cool. I got to do this on a giant scale for one night, but now what do I do now? Like, what was going through your mind once All In ended? You got to experience that, but then you knew that was it. You weren't working with any of the other companies, the Ring of Honors, etc. What were you thinking after that night? At that point, I kind of had I felt like I had enough buzz and steam that I could do something with it, especially that, even with that, between that, the spring break shows and all the content putting out on the internet and the way my social media is perceived. I feel like I was going somewhere and I finally found a light at the end of the tunnel for my wrestling. But it wasn't too far after that Matt Jackson started hitting me up saying, "Oh, there's gonna be this wrestling promotion and it might be on TNT." And I was like, that sounds wild, you know.
Were you
Yeah, I don't know.
skeptical? Like you've heard that before, or
No, I
did you
wasn't.
think no?
No, I
There's
wasn't skeptical.
legitimacy to this one.
No, I wasn't skeptical at all because the guy that was telling me it was completely honest with me and put me in this big spot and told me, you know, they put on this big spectacle of a show and no, I was 100%. It was just like hearing this stuff for the first time was just wild. Just yeah, I was like, you know, and you know, and it was just I was like, I wasn't skeptical. I was just like, I guess it's go time, you know.
And then eventually you got a call saying, "Hey, this thing we told you about, it's going to happen."
Yeah, they said it's gonna happen, and then they calls came in about setting up doing the press conference in Jacksonville, and I was a part of that, which was wild. And at the time, I had I blew out my knee pretty bad. 3 weeks after All In, I blew out my knee. Pretty devastating fashion. Like I was wrecked. Yeah, so during this whole time of me communicating with them about signing a contract and a press conference, I was rehabbing my knee and, you know, barely getting around.
That was vicious. That was really vicious. Did you ever think you're going to be able to wrestle again?
Yeah, I knew I'd be able to wrestle. Some doctors were telling me otherwise, but I knew not to. They're like, "Oh, your knee's not going to be the same." I said, "Well, it's wrestling. It's not like I'm, you know, it's not the NFL. You know, it's not like I have to run up and down a 100-yard field." But yeah, it was devastating blow, the knee injury. But luckily, I had a guy. He's formerly known as Crowbar in WCW, Devin Storm. He runs a rehabilitation facility in New Jersey. So, at the time, I didn't have a car or anything. I got rid of my car because I wasn't really using it for anything. So, the promoter of GCW, he bought me a car. He said, "You get to rehab," and you know, I went there 4 days a week, and he rehabbed me a 9-month. It was a 9 to 12-month timetable. I came back in 5.
Wow. So Devin was with you the whole time?
Whole time.
Devin Storm. That's awesome. Great guy.
He's a wonderful guy. And he took care of me for free. He didn't ask for anything. I tried to give him something. He wouldn't take it. And he's doing it for his love for the business and, you know, just seeing someone hungry and knew that what opportunities were coming for me in the future. And he knew about all AEW. And I would tell him, you know, "Oh, they tell me this is going to be on TNT and all this." And so he's like, "All right, let's get to work," you know. So
he's a good guy, and he got you through that in 5 months, significantly less than it was supposed to be. So is there a name of his company that you could mention, and maybe if anybody needs rehab out that way?
I'm trying to think of the name of his rehab. It is. See, this brain damage. Maybe just give me 1 second. Can I come back in here if I look on Google?
Yeah.
All right. I'm back. It's called Raising the Bar Physical Therapy, and it's in Rutherford, New Jersey.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Devin got you all cleaned up, fixed up, healed up, ready to go
good enough.
onto AEW.
Yeah.
And now here you are in AEW. What's it been like for you? What like how cool has this been?
It's been awesome. It's been a ride so far. It's
Did you ever imagine yourself on a giant promotion like this?
I always at a point I did. I knew I was gonna make it. To some point. Because I have the drive and love for the business. I'm not in this for the fame or the money or anything of that. This is pure love for wrestling. So I knew I would, at some capacity, make it somewhere at some point. But this came about so fast, and it's just been a ride, and it's been adapting to every time, every Wednesday I'm going out there to wrestle. When I'm there, it's just, it's a nerve-wracking day for me,
What's it like for you as you climb up the stairs in the back of the tunnel and right before your music hits and you go out there? What's going through your mind?
But it really is. My nerves are at a fever pitch every time, and because I've never, I would, I kind of haven't been prepared for this. I did my, the indies for almost 15 years now, and still nothing prepares you for going out there in front of a massive audience, and especially when you realize that there are a million people watching you at home. And not only that, your friends, family can see you on TV now, and it's just wild, but that's what I'm using this time for. It's just, when I come back to AEW, I'm really putting into fifth gear.
Awesome. What has been your favorite match so far of yours? And then who would you most like to wrestle next?
The Mox match was definitely amazing. Especially with his comeback match, his first match back. That was absolutely incredible. Just a great dude overall. Like, just such an awesome dude. Especially putting together the match with him, it was just everything just clicked that day, and everything just worked out so perfect. And the match was perfected. I think executed like to the best that we could execute it. I think it was nearly the perfect, hardcore match, street fight, whatever you like to call it. I don't think you could have gotten much better than that. But that's definitely my favorite match. And second is definitely the match I did with Kenny at AW Dark, because that was so abrupt and just from us saying, all right, we're going to go, I'm going to break down the fourth wall here, saying on the sheet that we're going. It says 10 minutes, but then we go 30 minutes. Hey, whatever.
That was a roller coaster.
He's one of the VPs.
That was,
he's one of the VPs. The heat's off my shoulders if I'm in there, one of the VPs, and he goes to 30 with me. So that was a great one.
That was a hell of a roller coaster. Both of those matches were awesome. Is there anybody that you love to get in the ring with?
Chris Jericho, definitely. Hopefully, sometime on this run that time will come. But that's just. I think I've wrestled everyone in AEW besides Jericho and the Bucks. To be honest, I think I've wrestled everyone else.
It'll be great when you get in there with Jericho. I think that'll be an awesome match.
Yeah, I think so. That's that's my number one goal right now. And the time comes, it comes. But I'm ready to step it into a different gear for sure.
Heck yeah, we're all looking forward to coming back at full speed. We all love the company that we work for. AEW is a fun place to work. Everybody that works there, we just have such a great crew, and that's part of what I love with this show, just bring everybody on. So everyone at home gets to meet everybody from AEW and get to know them a little bit. So I feel like we've gotten to know you quite a bit, and I have some questions that came in from the Twitter. The first question comes from Haritza Flores, 94. What is your favorite moment in AEW? Favorite moment?
My moment or someone else's moment?
It's pretty general, so you could answer it however you want.
My moment for sure is the Moxley match for sure. As far as the company overall, the Dustin Cody match is definitely goosebumps. Monitor sellout type stuff that everyone was watching and everyone was kind of shooken up by that. So I'd say those two. If I had to think, there'd be more, but there's been a lot of cool stuff since AW started, so I'd really have to think about that one. But I think
it's hard to pick just one. There's so many, right?
Yeah, they definitely stacked the deck in the last year. So, I think I'd say that, and I think the Orange Cassidy match at the last pay-per-view as well. Just seeing him, the crowd just explode, because the last three years, we've been very prevalent on the independent scene. So to see someone that go out there and just blow the roof off the place when there was a lot of people doubting him just because the way he portrays himself as a character, that never saw his independent work. I knew what everyone was in store for, but a lot of people didn't know what they were in store for.
That was an amazing moment. That sold out crowd in Chicago, and it was right before the main event, so they had seen a lot, and they still had the main event to come, and it's kind of a rough spot to be in. And both of those guys, him and Pac, that was an awesome match.
It was a perfect spot to put him in, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anybody else, it would be a rough spot. For them, they hit it out of the park.
Perfect.
Speaking of Orange Cassidy, at Darko Milistic, I apologize if I butchered that, is Orange Cassidy versus Minoru Suzuki going to go down as the greatest match that never happened?
Oh, it's going to happen for sure. There's not a doubt in my mind. As soon as we rescheduled the spring break show that was canceled due to this dastardly fucking virus, that match will be signed, sealed, and delivered first and aired out across the masses. I'm going to have satellite dishes in the sky zapping other satellite dishes to let people know that Orange Cassidy and Minoru Suzuki will happen. And, that's 100%. And I don't think there's anything I'm more determined to do than nearly replicate the card I had already. And not only that, absolutely stack it even further. So, that match will happen, and Jim knows breaking kayfabe. Orange Cassidy knows it will happen, and I'm sure Minoru Suzuki somewhere knows it will happen as well. So it will happen. If it doesn't happen,
it'll happen.
It's gonna happen. There's no
it'll happen. Leave it at that.
It's gonna happen, guys.
Omega Anarchy, who is your dream opponent from the original ECW?
Oh man, that's a rough one. There's so many. Like, ECW is what kind of built me,
Built a lot of people. ECW was awesome.
Yeah, just like,
it's hard to pick one, but
that's basically what inspired the style and the way I work today. Because those guys, not only in ECW, not only were they just doing the hardcore style, they were all hybrids. They could all tangle with the best of them. So it was such a groundbreaking company. I'd say my dream match, to be honest, would be Mike Awesome.
Okay.
In his prime. You know, I could say Sabu, I could say the Sandman and all those guys, but you know, I can bump my ass off, and Mike Awesome can bump me. Yeah, Mike Awesome, I think.
That would have been a terrific match. Joey, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out here. Thank you for being a friend, and I look forward to seeing you back as soon as possible.
Hell yeah, I can't wait. And you know, I think everyone at home just take this time to you know, reflect on some of the mistakes that you've done before this all came around, but at the time you can do whatever you want, and now you're stuck in your house. Just spend time with your family and be safe and follow the guidelines, and not try to listen to people and don't try to get out there too soon, because you know, I don't want to be stuck in my house for the rest of the 2020s. So just follow the guidelines and be safe and keep your family safe and do whatever you can do to, you know, accommodate them, and you know, just, you know, don't rush, and you know, everything will be back to normal.
We all look forward to that. Joey, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Hey, thanks, bud.
I always enjoy talking to Joey Janela. He is very real, as you can tell, and he's a great guy. And so is my next guest. I have always been a huge fan of entrance themes, like huge fan. And I used to carry around a little briefcase that had individual cassette tapes of everybody's music on it, because when I went to the Rosemont Horizon and went to the shows, that's what I saw them doing. So I used to use that briefcase and play the entrance music for my wrestling figures. And our second guest here today, somebody from behind the scenes that I would like for everybody to meet, is Mikey Ruckus, the man who is behind most of the entrance music at AEW. Mikey, how are you?
Good to see you, man. I'm envious of those palm trees you got in the background.
Wish you were here. It's been a long time, and I miss you. Miss you. Most of the theme music at AEW, right?
Yes, I actually officially joined All Elite Wrestling May 1st of 2019, and it's just been fast forward, creating theme music for any talent that needs it, actually creating some music for some of the BTE spots, some promotional spots. So anything that musically related that we need, and we need on the fly, or we need for some additional storytelling, I'll take care of it.
You even did the jingle for this show.
Yes, sir. We did.
Thank you for that. And you did my my entrance music. As crazy as it is to say that I have entrance music at AEW, I've got entrance music, and you put that together, and it's awesome.
I'm so glad that you have that. I mean, it's to see you walk down at the start of the show and just listening to the crowd pop, and you know, they're always excited to see you, and just having that full package, having the video wall and having the music, it all just brings the package together for you. It's good to see.
You and Kevin Sullivan made that happen. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
No worries.
What are you working on right now?
I can't tell you that.
Okay. What would you say is good?
No, right now we're kind of in a lull because we're pretty much caught up. A lot of the stuff that I get is at the last minute. I think the most recent song we may have done was the Exalted one, Brody Lee. I got maybe 3 or 4 days notice and just went to work on it right away. Anytime in between that, I'm always helping out with talent if they're doing some small bits on, you know, their own social media. If they need music, rather than them having to search for a couple of hours for royalty-free music, they're always free to hit me up, and I help them out in that regard as well. But in terms of actual theme music, I think Brody's was the most recent one that we've done.
That's very cool, and you're great at what you do. How does that work when they say, okay, we need music for Brody Lee? What is your first step? How do you decide where to start and where you're going to go and how to build a song to make it for that individual, to make it work for their entrance? Because entrance music is really, really important.
It is, and the first thing that I can attribute to is the teamwork that we have across the board. Everybody's involved with it in the communication process. Cody, Brandy, Matt, Nick, Kevin Sullivan, everybody across the board in terms of the EVPs, and even Tony in some occasions. We just have full communication on what we're doing, including the talent. Now, each song is a case-by-case basis, depending on whether the person is with the company yet or they're about to appear on TV. There's a lot of different factors that play into it. With Brody's, for example, I didn't even know that it was Brody. I just knew it was the theme music for the Exalted one. So what we wanted to do in that aspect is kind of take what the Dark Order theme was and kind of elevate it to another level. And we just had some communication in that regards, but 9 times out of 10, anytime we're putting something together, the entire team is involved, plus the talent. So everybody gives their feedback on what they'd like to hear. Everybody has their feedback on what story they're trying to tell, and we all make sure that we're on the same page when it's completed.
Do you have one that you're particularly proud of where you say, this is one of the favorites that I've done here at AEW?
Absolutely, and it was a little bit earlier back last year. The Jurassic Express theme is my personal favorite. Before they were named, I think right around the time they were named Jurassic Express, I had seen them come out and just watch the crowd reaction, and people just smiled. It was just pure joy, and it was like wonder and adventure, and they seemed like superheroes in their own right. And when the idea for their track first came down, I actually pitched to the team. I said, we need something that's very adventurous, that's very epic, Jurassic Park kind of, or even Avengers, something that's adventurous like a blockbuster film. And at that point, the entire team gave me free creative reign just to kind of push an idea out there. And I came up with it in about 24 hours. I sent it up, and Cody emailed me back, and they all said they loved it. And I said, I feel like there should be a roar at the top. Should I roar? And Cody's expression was, roar that shit up. So, and that's there we went. And it just so many different aspects of the orchestral arrangements that were put together. And it was something that I had been wanting to do for a long time, and was really, really happy that came to see the light of day.
I love that theme. I love all the themes. You do an incredible job, and it really helps when I'm doing my job introducing everybody. I do it along with, I always take in the atmosphere. I take in, the people are cheering or they're booing, if they're quiet, if they're loud. You see the wrestlers standing at the entranceway. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes I start before I see them. But the music going, that helps get the people up, and it creates a huge part of the feel, and you're behind creating music. And it's awesome. I know you work from home. You have your studio at home, but then you also come out on the road quite a bit. What's it like for you coming to the arenas and hanging out with the wrestlers that you're making the music for, as well as everybody else behind the scenes at AEW? Tell us about
that. It's interesting because I don't come from the professional wrestling, I guess you can say that industry. I'm kind of like an outsider. This is kind of my first foray into being directly involved with a wrestling company, other than online and through emails and things like that. I try to be as inconspicuous as possible when I come in, and I enjoy watching people, and I enjoy their interactions and just seeing them get to shine and get their spotlight. That's something that really, for me, and getting to know everybody, it's almost stressful. I used to watch wrestling as just a pure fan back in the day, and they would go through all of these high spots, and you get these big pops and oohs and ahs, and anytime one of our guys takes a climb up to the ropes, I kind of get stressed out because I don't want to see anybody get hurt, But it's fun, man. I enjoy it. It's good to kind of put a face with the name and get some personal interaction, and that's where the creativity a lot of times starts to fly, just off of just different discussions and just bouncing ideas off of each other in person. I got with Marco Stunt when we were in Charlotte. Got him to record his very first original single. He just brought his guitar in. I brought some recording gear down and just let him do his thing. And that's the fun part about it, is really seeing a different side of creativity come from these guys.
You bring up an interesting point. Like with Marco, I saw his video one night on Twitter, and he was just playing the guitar and singing. And I thought, whoa, he's got an awesome voice. I had no idea. And the idea that he's a guy who's a wrestler who likes to mess around and play his guitar and sing for fun, whatever. And then someone like you comes along and says, I can work with you and help you produce this and take it to another level. That's huge.
Sure. And it's and at the end of the day, my job here is to tell everybody else's story. I'm not telling my own personal story, but I know that every single person that's involved with this team has one. And anything that I can do to help elevate that, I'm all for it. That for me is my life's work, is being able to tell the stories of our AEW stars.
Could we maybe do an experiment? We talked about you doing the jingle for this show, and it has a very, I don't know, it's familiar. It almost sounds like a Golden Girls type feel to it. Could you take the theme that we have existing and maybe spruce it up a little bit and make this more of like a harder, not like a rock version, but could you take what we currently have for Thank You for Being a Friend and maybe make the version 2 for this episode and going forward?
Probably so. I can knock that out. That wouldn't be an issue.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. It's
we'll
all
do an
good.
experiment. Yeah. Mikey, thank you so much for all the hard work that you do at AEW. Love having you around, and you're always very helpful with everything. And it's always good to see you. Miss seeing you around. And thank you for being a friend. You're a pal and a confidant.
Miss you too, man. Can't wait to see everybody again soon.
Take care, Mikey.
Take care.
Thank you so much for being a friend and hanging out. I hope you enjoyed listening to Joey Janela, listening to Mikey Ruckus, learning all about them. And by the time you're watching the show, you may have noticed the new jingle, and that's courtesy of Mikey Ruckus. Thank you, everybody. Please feel free to leave your feedback on Twitter at Justin Roberts. Go ahead and let me know who you would like to see on future episodes. Continue to watch all things AEW. We've got AEW Dark, AEW Dynamite, the pre-show, the post-show, everything in between, the Unrestricted podcast. Check out the AEW shop. Check out Pro Wrestling Tees. Check out this. Thank you all for watching, and I look forward to doing this again right here next week.